to the next episode here on Maple Leafs Man Advantage. I am Hawkeye, and we're moving along now into the 1968-69 season with the Leafs. And we're now in 1969, and we're going to talk about a trade that the Leafs made on March the 2nd, 1969, that they made with the Philadelphia Flyers. Um, Early on after the expansion, it seemed to be the Flyers and the Oakland Seals, if I remember correctly, seemed to be teams Toronto worked out quite a few deals with early going after the expansion at that point. Now, what happened is the Leafs received center Forbes Kennedy and left winger Brit Selby, who had already played in Toronto. It's a welcoming back for him. For center Bill Sutherland, who played the previous season with the Flyers, center Gerry Meehan, and right winger Mike Byers. So there you have it. Now you can say this was a trade deadline deal, but it's not like the Leafs and or the Flyers were not making the playoffs, but they're kind of both looking for pieces, I guess, for the playoff run. So there you have it. So we're going to take a closer look into this deal and these players. This is going to be fun. And here we go. So coming over to Toronto first, Kennedy, we'll start with him. He had played 10 years in the league already. This is his 11th season in the league. But it wasn't his ability to put the puck in the net that attracted Toronto to get him in a trade. It was his muscle and his ability to bang the body that the Leafs wanted. They really did sorely need that in Toronto, especially up front. Um, and just a little giveaway. Maybe you all know this already, but the Leafs are going to end up playing the Boston Bruins in the first round. Very tough opponent. Um, and the Bruins already had enough of muscle of their own. So Toronto is going to try and need to match up with that if they can. Um, so there you have it. But now, this point in his career, Forbes had already played 590 games with 70 goals, 105 assists for 175 points, to go with 864 penalty minutes. At the end of this very season, Forbes ended up leading the league in penalty minutes. He had 219. So he wasn't afraid of the penalty box. After this season, though, he ended up not playing another NHL game. This was it for him. He was to retire. But he did play 13 games for Toronto with 3 assists and 24 penalty minutes before going off into the playoffs with the Leafs. Now, Brit Selby had played with the Leafs, as I said before, for a few seasons to start his career. Then he went and played for Philadelphia the previous season and the beginning of this season. He actually won the 1965-66 Calder Trophy as a top rookie in the league for the Leafs. But by this point in his career, he had played 189 games with 42 goals, 42 assists for 84 points. He would go on to play in the parts of 3 seasons for the Leafs before he was traded to the St. Louis Blues. And that's where he would end his NHL career. He would end up playing 158 games with 13 goals, 20 assists, and 33 points. He then jumped over to the WHA where he would play for 3 additional seasons. He played for the New England Whalers, Quebec Nordique, and the Toronto Toros. There he played 153 games, scoring 23 goals and 51 assists for 74 points while he was in the WHA. So there you have it. Now we're going to take a look at the Philadelphia side of the trade. First off, we'll look at Bill Sutherland. He had played parts of 2 seasons in the NHL. He was an older fellow. He was already in his 30s. But by this point, he had played 104 games with 27 goals, 17 assists, and 44 points. He would play the parts of 3 seasons after this trade with the Flyers, playing 64 games with 22 goals, 20 assists, and 44 points. He would then be traded to the Blues and he would also play for the Detroit Red Wings. So all of those career numbers were with all three of those teams. He would then jump over to the WHA for a couple of seasons. He played with Bobby Hull and the Winnipeg Jets. He played 60 games, scoring 10 goals with 21 assists for 31 points. Next up is Gerry Meehan. He had played 25 games for the Leafs to start his NHL career. I believe it was all in this particular season. He had 2 assists. I'm pretty sure he wasn't getting a whole lot of playing time. Um, this being his first season, rookie season in the NHL. And maybe nothing against him, but you got Punch him locked behind the bench. He's a centerman. You already have Keon. You already got Ullman. Eh, playing time, you're going to get scraps, I think, with that, with dealing, trying to compete against excellent Hall of Fame players like that. But after a short stint after this trade in Philadelphia, he was then taken by, already mentioned, Punch him Black, and the Buffalo Sabres in the expansion draft when they come into the NHL. And then Gerry was able to put up some real good offensive numbers and play some good offensive hockey. He scored 31 goals for the Sabres in 1972-73 and went on to score 180 goals after leaving Toronto. Just to try and quickly go through his numbers again, um, he also played 645 games and got 421 points after the trade. Oh, got paid just flying everywhere, here and there and everywhere. Woo! Um, and then he even played 2 games in the WHA for the Cincinnati Stingers in 1978-79. Now, the final guy in this trade is Mike Byers. He had only played 15 games for the Leafs over the course of 2 seasons, with 2 goals, 2 assists for 4 points. He would go on to only play 5 games in Philly, um, but for the 1970-71 season, he played with the LA Kings, where he put up a career high 27 goals. He also played for the Buffalo Sabres as well after that. In total, Mike would play 151 more NHL games with 40 goals, 32 assists for 72 points. Mike then jumped over to the WHA for the 1972-73 season, and he played there for 4 seasons. He put up some real good offensive numbers in the WHA. He played for the Los Angeles Sharks, New England Whalers, and the Cincinnati Stingers. There he played 263 games with 83 goals, 74 assists for 157 points. Now, Mike scored 20 goals 3 times in 3 of those seasons in the WHA, including the 29 he nabbed in 1973-74 for the Whalers, and he won the Avco Cup with the Whalers in 1972-73 in his first season in the WHA, winning the Cup. Now, when looking at this trade and looking at the players and um, what will happen in the future, I'm unfortunately going to have to not go with this trade. I understand the Leafs need muscle in their lineup, but seeing how they do in the playoffs, how this season ends up, and really what happens to Kennedy after this is his only season. I'm going to say no, let's not go with this trade. Um, at the same time, just looking down at my own team here, I still have Eddie Shack, still got Pete Semkowski. Um, sure, the Leafs right now, they got Horton, they got Quinn, they got Rickley. I got them too, but I also have Bobby Vaughn. They also have Jim Dory too. So they got muscle in the back end, but not up front. I got it up front and on defense. So I don't need any more muscle, I don't think, in my lineup. Boston had Eddie Shack. I still got him. So I kind of take him out of their lineup as well. That's good. Um, but yeah, I would not make this trade. I would just go with the lineup I got and go into the playoffs with the group I have. So there you have it. Now, on an interesting note as well, on this date as well, that's March the 2nd, 1969. Phil Esposito became the very first NHL player to record 100 points. He scored 2 goals in the Bruins 4-0 win over the Pittsburgh Penguins on this date as well. So that is an interesting note as well. So yeah, if you like this video, boom, go ahead, hit the little thumb there. Um, as well, you can subscribe. There's many more videos on here about the Leafs, going through the history and NHL really in particular as well. It's not all about the Leafs. Going through history and finding out, trying to find some answers as to why they haven't won a cup since 1967. And if you want to comment on anything, go ahead and do that. I love talking hockey. That's really cool. But until next time, go Leafs, go.